in the Tanzanian Craton, which neighbours a number of gold mines and producers. The project comes with a JORC mineral resource estimate of 1.2 million ounces of gold at 1.3 grams per tonne in one area, and tailings with around 68,000 ounces of gold at 1.6 grams per tonne. And it has 12 new regional targets that have been identified and 15 existing targets have been prioritised. So, Andrew, first question, what is Kenya like to do business in, and how stable is the current political situation there?
First of all, Kenya is, I think, one of the most developed and stable and countries in Africa. When a lot of African countries, after independence, went the socialist route, until they discovered it really didn't work, such as Tanzania and Ghana. Kenya was, you might describe as capitalist from the beginning, and this has been helpful to them and helped them grow. People there speak English as well as Swahili. The English standard is good. Parts of the economy are extremely well developed, and in fact, mobile money, M-Pesa, sending money through your telephone, was something that developed in Kenya before anywhere else. And every till in every shop will have a number by it, and you can actually pay from your telephone. So Kenya is not an unsophisticated environment in Africa, and it is a place where the rule of law is pretty well established, as we've just been able to prove. So it's not a bad place to operate. It has like most countries, it has some issues, and you can run into problems with politics and politicians who want what they don't deserve and shouldn't have. But you can find your way through this on the whole, as in many countries, given persistence and if you've got proper legal agreements. So I'd say it's not a bad place to operate. The infrastructure, particularly in the southern part of the country, is really quite good, and communications are good. I would say it's not bad at all. When we first went there about 10 years ago or 11 years ago, there was no drilling company in the country, and it was quite difficult bringing people in to do geological work. I'm happy to say there's been a considerable improvement since then, and so we have the things available that we need to operate.
And what is the mining infrastructure like in Kenya?
Well, it's, again, if we're looking for gold, there is not the requirement for a lot of infrastructure, because gold is high value, and therefore you've got a choice of ways to take it out, unlike something like iron ore, where because it's a low value per ton, you really need to have cheap transportation because you're taking massive quantities. So that's not a constraint on us.
Okay. And who are the neighbours, and are there any majors in town?
If you take the Tanzanian Craton, and the Craton is a very old Archean slab of rock, in this case, I think about 1,800 to 2,300 million years old. And that goes from the southern end of Lake Victoria in Tanzania to the east of Lake Victoria, sweeps up and comes into that southern and western part of Kenya. In the Tanzanian part of it, there have been a number of discoveries and quite substantial operating mines, such as the North Mara mine, 30 or 40 kilometers to our south and parallel with us, in another greenstone belt on the Tanzanian side of the border. So we're in one of the greenstones in the Tanzanian Craton, and to the north of us, the only significant greenstone is that it was held by Acacia Africa Barrick, and now in the hands of Shanta. Shanta seem to me to be doing a good job, and they've just upped the pace there. So just as we get our license back, just as the gold price starts to go up, Shanta comes in there, and they're talking about over 1 million ounces at really very good grades. I think about 12 grams per ton. To our south, North Mara is mining good grades. We have 1.2 million ounces at 1.3 grams a ton, but it's 1.3 grams a ton because the only work we had time to do there before we had to go to court to enforce our rights 5 or 6 years ago, the only work we had time to do was really assembling all the old information, re-drilling some of it, ground truthing, finding out where all the old drill holes over decades were, putting it together and bringing it together into a modern resource. And I say we did some drilling, quite a bit of drilling, in fact, but we didn't drill in the places and with the strategy we would have done if we'd been looking to build up grade. We did this to establish a baseline for our exploration. So we expect to be able to improve that 1.2 million ounces very considerably, and to be able to improve that 1.3 grams very considerably, because we have a good asset in a good environment that is conducive to finding gold mines.
And what is the scale of the opportunity? And indeed, can you expand on the JORC resource and the immediate opportunity with the tailings project?
Well, yes, we have 1.2 million ounces, as I say, 1.3 grams. I would have thought that it's open in every direction, and there are some high-grade zones there. I thought there was considerable scope for expansion, and I'm not going to put a number on it, but if you look at what people have to our south and to our north, you can get an idea of what the potential might be. Because everyone who's looked at Kenya has said that they think this is the best asset there. The thing is, Kenya has been lagging quite a bit behind Tanzania in terms of exploitation of its mineral resources. And we've got a new mining act that came in 2016, and that should help somewhat. And you've got two or three companies now that are producing different commodities in the country. They're becoming more aware of it. We also, as you say, have the Macalda tailings. Those tailings are within our license, but there's an old VMS deposit, which was a copper mine. And VMS deposit, you usually have a bit of gold on the top in a sort of hard crust, and underneath you have the copper. It was mined out and finished producing in about the 1960s or early 70s. And the tailings from that mine do contain a reasonable amount of gold, 68,000 ounces at 1.7 grams a ton. And we have got a measured resource there and did a feasibility and a preliminary feasibility and put in an application for a mining lease so that we could start producing from it. Now that we have the licenses back, we have to go back and re-pursue that and reopen those discussions against the background, of course, of a good gold price, which should make that quite a profitable exercise.
And what is the roadmap for the project going forward?
The roadmap, well, clearly we've gone back in there. We're reopening the camp. We're going to recruit people to do some additional work. We have to reassemble. We've got our database. We have to look at it again. We have to decide where we want to start exploring. We have to start increasing that resource, and we have to start considering how we can take the Macalda tailings project forward. And all of that, we didn't really start doing it until we had the license back in our hands. That's only within the last few weeks. And of course, transportation is between countries is still quite difficult. So we're beginning to do that. We tend to pick up the pace really quite quickly, which is one of the reasons why we just raised some money through financing. And we are also getting up approaches from some parties who'd like to be involved.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for talking to us a little bit more about the Red Rock Resources Mikei Gold Project in Kenya.
Thank you.